Do you feel like talking about Toyhouse Adoptables?
What?
What's up, fellow quacks? The Toyhouse adoptable community is pretty wild, and in this video I want to talk about it. So, what is an adoptable? Adoptables are literally just pre-designed characters that you can buy. Adoptables have gotten really popular within the art community over the past few years, and it's no surprise because, well, who wouldn't want a pre-designed character that looks really cool that you can literally buy and have for yourself? That's awesome. That's such a great concept. Literally genius. But there's been a lot of issues that have arisen in the adoptable community, and I wanted to talk about them, specifically on Toyhouse, because I feel like that's the epicenter of where a lot of the adoptables are sold at, because I do see them on other sites, but Toyhouse, because of its character storage nature, it makes sense that adoptables are going to be booming mostly on there. They are on DeviantArt as well, but like, who gives a shit about DeviantArt anymore? So, with that said, let's talk about the first thing that people seem to have issues with when it comes to adoptables. One of the biggest issues within the adoptable community is the prices of adoptables. Some adoptables can be really pricey, and this can irritate people because, well, to some, especially outside of the art community in general, they might see this and be like, why the fuck are you spending like thousands of dollars on a PNG of a character? You could draw it yourself. And this is true, but also consider that a lot of these designs are designs that people might just not come up with in their heads, and when they see the design, they're like, oh, I want this, you know? Like, I do get the mindset of like, oh, I could draw it myself, I'm the artist, I can do that, but you know, sometimes people just have an idea that you just don't have, and it's executed so well that you're like, alright, I need to buy this character design because it's really cool. And that makes sense, you know, that's why adoptables are so popular, because a lot of them are just ideas that some creators just didn't have, but someone else created the idea, and then they're like, oh, I want to buy this character design, and I can buy it, so I'm gonna have it. But for why adoptables are expensive, there's two reasons. One is popular designers tend to have more expensive designs because, you know, supply and demand and all that. Once a creator gets to a certain point in popularity, people really want their designs, and it makes sense that they're going to bump up their prices to justify selling them, because if they're popular for selling designs, it makes sense that they're going to have higher prices. And also, you know, it's a lot easier to support, because if you're only selling adopts for like, I don't know, $20, unless you're selling like, I don't know, thousands of them, you're not gonna be making much. But if you sell them for like hundreds, even thousands, then yeah, that makes sense. That's one reason. The other reason is that there's definitely a level of detail that some adopts go to that justify the prices being higher. Like if it has a front, side, and back view, that already bumps up the price because that's extra details that wasn't necessary. A lot of adopts are only front views. Sometimes they'll be a little bit fancy and have a back view, but most of the time they don't. And if it's a full-on ref sheet with like little notes and stuff and even like added lore, I feel like that also adds to the overall pricing, and it even adds more if there's like an added illustration of some kind with it, like an icon or something. I do think that some adoptables do deserve to be on the higher end of prices, because if the designer puts a lot of effort into the design of it, then sure, fine. And if the designer is popular enough, then yeah, it makes sense, because well, it's supply and demand. Popular designers are popular for a reason, and because of that, it makes sense that they're gonna have pricier adopts. But there are some adoptables that I feel like, I don't want to say the artist doesn't deserve to earn money, but I have seen adoptables where I'm like, I don't really think this should be like $800. But people are still buying them, so it really makes you wonder, what's going on with that? And you know, sometimes it is popular designers. I feel like some popular designers take advantage of the fact that they're popular and they can sell like really basic bland designs because they know that there's going to be people eating them up. There's going to be this like whole thing with prestige of owning a design by so-and-so. And that kind of leads into the next topic, which is that people will really love to have adoptables kind of for the sake of status, because if you can afford this popular designer's adoptables, especially many, then it sort of sends a signal to everybody that, oh, you got money, you're rich, you're bougie or whatever, you have all these designer adoptables, you're so cool. And as a result, it's kind of led to people hoarding some of these characters and all that, and trying to scalp them too, which is crazy to hear, because you'd never think that scalping would be a thing in the art community, but yeah, it is. Adoptable scalping is a thing. There's a reason why a lot of designers have the rule of don't resell adoptables for a higher price unless you have added art or something, because if you don't, and if you just sell the design right after getting it, that's kind of shitty, because like, you know, the artist sold it for this price and you're like, all right, they sold it for like $20, I'm gonna sell it for like $50 or whatever, or even more. It's like, really? You know, it's kind of scummy. But back to what I was saying about the whole status thing and hoarding. So this has resulted in people kind of going nuts for popular designers, adoptables, because people are always fighting over them, and it's so crazy. People will be like trying to get as many as they can, and this is where like hoarding characters is definitely an issue. I remember in my first video when I talked about Toyhouse, I think I was in the comments kind of fussing with people about how, oh, you know, it's not really a big deal if like people hoard characters, you know, like it's fine, first come, first served. That was kind of my mindset, but then I realized actually, you know what, that's kind of shitty because let other people have the characters. You know, I get that first come, first serve is a thing, but I do think that creators should have like a cooldown, or they should have a limit on how many characters people can get within a certain time frame, because if they don't, it results in these situations where people end up having like a shit ton of characters from one designer. And I do think that there is a point where the designer has to kind of step up and be like, all right, you've got like a lot of designs for me. I know that you're supporting me financially, but also you gotta let other people have these characters as well. It's not fair that you have all these designs. I'm not gonna force you to sell these designs to people, but if I have another batch coming out, you need to, you know, let other people have a turn. And I think that's pretty fair, because it's not fair that someone has all of these designs from one person. That doesn't really sit right with me. Hoarding issue when it comes to adoptables is mainly when people are taking a bunch of characters from one designer and whaling them in a way. Like, I can't believe people are sometimes using like gotcha terms to describe adoptables, but yeah, some people are just whales when it comes to adoptables. Like, they'll just have all this money and then they spend it all on these adoptables from this designer. It kind of sucks to see some people have like pages and pages of characters that they've gotten from popular designers, and they flaunt them in a way, and they treat them like as if they're a prize to be won. I just wonder how these people feel after getting these designs. Like, do they feel great, or is this like a mini adrenaline rush that kind of fades after like a few hours? Because I just don't think this sort of mindset is very healthy, and that kind of leads to other issues with the adopt community.
Hey, if someone was like, let's go overspending on adoptables, would you want to get in on it?
For sure. I'm all about overspending on adoptables. I'm honestly kind of obsessed.
The biggest issue that I've noticed within the adoptive community is spending addictions. Now, no one's like encouraging it necessarily, but I feel like the whole vibes of adoptables as a whole kind of leads to it, because there's just so many good designs out there, and I think a lot of people see the pretty designs and see all this stuff and they just feel like they need to have it, you know? Like, no one's forcing them to buy these designs, but it's like, you just have to have it. You know, you see some people that have certain adopts and like, oh my gosh, I need this one, I need this one, I need this one. And as a result, some people who have the money for it, they just end up spending all this money and then they regret it. And that's another thing, buyer's regret. Some people buy adoptables, especially really expensive ones, and they can't sell them after they regret buying them. And that's the worst feeling ever, because imagine buying an adoptable for like $1,000 and you're not able to resell it because, well, who's gonna drop $1,000 on someone's pre-owned adoptable? That's not really gonna be sold really easily. It's gonna take a while, sometimes months, years. I heard stories of people saying like, oh yeah, I bought this character and it's just rotting in my profile now. I was hoping to sell it, but no one's buying. And the reason why is because it's expensive. I would say be careful when it comes to buying adoptables. Do you like the design, or do you actually want to use it for something? Because I think a lot of people buy designs solely based on just liking it, but not really think to themselves, what can they do with the character? What's the personality and lore behind the character? And now obviously, with some designs, it's hard to really think about it deeply, because if it's made by someone popular, the design might get snatched in minutes. But if the design's made by a less popular person and there's more time to kind of claim it, then I would try to think about it just a little bit, you know? Try to ruminate in your head, what would you do with this character? Because I think a lot of people just get adoptables on a whim. And you know, okay, maybe occasionally it's fine, but don't do it too often, because that can lead to the whole spending addiction, the whole dopamine rush of getting a cool design, and then the rush fades and you realize, oh, I actually didn't like the design all that much, or I liked it, but I can't connect with the character that much because, well, sometimes people get adoptables that they like conceptually, they like the designs, but they can't think of anything good for them. It's like the design is too good for the ideas that they have for them, and that's such a terrible feeling as well. It's like having a design that's just too good for you, you know? Anything you come up with for them is just not going to work, and that's how you end up getting disconnected with them.
Have you ever had that dream of selling adoptables? Of making tons of cool designs to sell on Toyhouse? Sha-la-la-la-la, stealing time, just rip off people's art. Copy everything. Build the original. Plagiarize, demonize, monetize, then you'll be super rich.
Another issue within the Toyhouse adoptable community is that a lot of people rip off popular designers, and as a result there's definitely like this issue of sort of art style theft. Now I don't entirely like agree with the whole concept of art style theft, but I feel like in the case of trying to profit or to get people to buy your stuff because it looks similar to someone else's, where I kind of have an issue with it, where I start to think, okay, yeah, that's definitely like a thing. Because I have seen adoptables where I'm like, wait a second, this looks like so-and-so's, and then I look at the name, I'm like, wait, that's not that person, it's someone else. This is someone who's trying to sell it, but passing it off as like the popular creators' designs, if that makes sense. It's like they're trying to be a bootleg, but a copycat, and it's so weird, you know? I don't like it. I feel like it's weird. I get that, you know, you see someone popular doing something and you want to try to capitalize off of it, but honestly, you're not going to be unique, and it's clear to people when you're being a copycat, and as a result, it's also made a lot of designers uncomfortable. I've seen bulletins, because I do follow some popular designers, that have stated, hey, don't rip off my art style, don't take heavy inspiration from my works. And, you know, I already made a video talking about Toyhouse users' inspiration. Well, I would say that popular designers, they have a right to be a bit more gatekeeper with their art, because, like, man, people are ripping off their designs all the time and trying to rip off their art styles to sell their adoptables. And it's like, guys, you gotta be a little bit more unique, okay? Like, I know that selling adoptables is hard. I know that the whole art community, when it comes to making money, is really difficult because there's an oversaturation issue, which is something else I'm going to address. But copying a popular designer's art style is not going to help. It's only going to make the popular creator hate you if they find out who you are, and it's going to make people who are like, oh, wait a second, I like this popular creator, but I also like you, but then I realize, oh, you're like a bootleg, that's not cool. Like, you're just going to have everyone hate you, and that's not good. Just try to be unique. I know it's hard, but, you know, adoptables that sell well are adoptables that usually kind of fit into certain trends, but also look like they have effort put into them and look like as if they have some level of care and aren't just something really simple that you could do in like 10 seconds, you know what I mean? Like, try, okay? Just try a little bit harder. If you try to put more effort into things, I'm sure someone will buy it eventually, you know? I can't guarantee that'd be like ultra popular, but you might have a more niche following, but you gotta be more unique with your designs, because ripping off popular creators is not going to help you in the long run. So oversaturation is a huge issue within the adoptable space on Toyhouse, and that's the reason why all those other issues exist, like people ripping off art styles and copying and blah blah blah, because you gotta stick out somehow, and some people will simply try to copy off of popular designers just to have a shortcut to get to popularity, and others simply will do their own thing, but they never really get popular simply because they're overlooked, because, you know, there's all these other creators out there, and, you know, you have to think about the perspective of a customer who wants to buy these adoptables. They're going to see two concepts that are the same, but one is by a popular designer and one is by someone who just started making adoptables. They're obviously going to go to the one who has more of a reputation. So I think one way to really help with that is to start to build a reputation. You know, the best way is probably just to start off with like OTAs, or offer to adopt adoptables, because people are more receptive to those. Those are usually more likely to have traction, since there's no money involved, unless there is money involved. But if it's just art or character swaps, people are more likely to get the adoptable, because it's like, oh, I can just draw this for that or whatever. Oversaturation sucks because a lot of it does boil down to luck. It's not just your art style, okay? Like, I know a lot of people worry that their art isn't good enough or whatever, but unless you're like a beginner, adoptables struggling to sell is usually just because of luck, and because there's popular creators usually having a concept that you have, but you know, obviously, since they're popular, they're gonna be the ones selling the stuff, you know? Don't feel like as if your art sucks because your adopts aren't selling, especially also with commissions. Like, if your commissions aren't selling well, it's not because your art sucks, it's just because there's so many people out there doing the same thing, and sometimes people just have similar styles, so your art just might be overlooked simply because there's just a lot of other people who have similar styles, and it sucks. and I don't really know what to say aside from just keep doing what you're doing, because eventually you'll get something. Like, I don't think you'll get nothing out of it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of cases where people complain about, like, yeah, my Adopt hasn't sold in years or whatever, or I just gave up on selling Adoptables because nothing's selling. And you know what? Don't force yourself to sell Adoptables if you don't want to. But if you really want to continue doing it, you do have to kind of keep your chin up, you know? You gotta just keep moving forward, keep pushing through, but also study what makes popular designs that sell well popular. Don't just like do whatever. I do think you have to study some trends for things to sell, because if you're gonna sell Adoptables, you do have to kind of make something that does fit within the general themes of what people like. You have to be unique as well, so try to like throw in a unique twist in some sort of way, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of popular concepts on Toyhouse that are constantly being sold as Adoptables each day, but if you having a unique twist to one of the popular concepts could definitely like boost your Adoptable sales. So that's like the best advice that I can give. So that was the video. I hope people don't feel like too discouraged from buying Adoptables or selling Adoptables from this video. I just wanted to talk about the downsides of it because I feel like they're not too addressed on YouTube, and you know, considering the Toyhouse saga, I might as well talk about it. So yeah, I have a lot of characters I have actually gotten as like Adoptables before, so I'm not against them at all. I just think there's a lot of issues that should be addressed. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you quacks later.